Hey, so in this video, we'll be doing the Easter eggs and prediction for Season 5, Episode 16 of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Super War. Spoiler, not caught up. So the episode was a lot about Daisy and May trying to track down Coulson, and to do so, they had to take Robin out of hiding. And we find out that Hunter and Bobby actually put Polly and Robin in the same cabin that Daisy was put in Season 2 after she got her powers, called the Retreat, which was created by Bruce Banner and all that good stuff. And this is how Daisy tried to approach her in this episode. She tried to relate to her, tried to comfort her and all that good stuff, because she has dealt with coming to terms with her powers and all that kind of stuff, but it is this different situation, and she doesn't know how to actually deal with her powers. And the reason she actually was shutting out apparently in this for the last couple of weeks is because the last thing she drew was of her death, and the only one who could open up to her, the only one to get her to open up was May. And once May actually got her to open up is when we saw some of her drawings again, and we saw drawings of Cassius, Sonara, the lighthouse, and toy robins that her father gave to her, and then we obviously saw her death, like I said. And there's one other drawing I will talk about in predictions, because it came back from a previous episode, but yeah. And what really shocked me in this episode was seeing the return of Raina and Quinn. I expected to see Quinn again, but just not in this way, because apparently it was 4 years ago after them leaving John Garrett in the season finale, and they're talking about, I don't know how he convinced him to give me the gravitonium and all that kind of stuff, and then Raina actually opens up the case, and the gravitonium took Quinn and absorbed him as well. And that ties to what Krill is going through in this episode, because he absorbed the whole. He has absorbed the gravitonium. But fun fact, if you had not heard, but that scene with Raina and Quinn, it was actually not shot for this actual episode and or season. It was actually shot for that season 1 finale. They just couldn't figure out where to place it in the episode, so they took it out and they kept it, I guess, up until now, and they found a way to use it again. So it's nice that they were able to do that. And I don't know why they did this. I don't know if it was to scare the audience or whatever. But when Robin went to talk to May, the way they shot the scene, it was very, very similar to the scene in episode 8 this season, where the same thing happened, but in a different time frame, where in episode 8 it happened after the Earth's destruction, but here a similar scene is happening before the Earth's destruction. So I don't know if the writers of the show were telling us that the time loop has changed, and the people that could die or think they can't die could die, like they're not safe anymore. So I don't know if that's what they're trying to scare us and making us think that, but there's a possibility that there's more of a hint later on, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But going to the whole Coulson side of this episode, pretty much, and I'll talk about a bit again with Robin. But when Krill comes to visit Coulson, he says, "I'm not here to join your evil League of Evil," something along those lines. But he actually, but Evil League of Evil is actually a reference to Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, which was created by the whole Whedon Brothers team and Marissa Tantron, which are the creators of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so it's just referencing a previous project they worked on. And so, yeah. But, what's called? When May is talking to Robin. Robin says Philip J. Coulson, he can put the pieces together, and we've heard that same line before back in episode 8 again. Like there's a lot of parallels, but I assumed she was referring to Flint being putting all the pieces together of the monolith, but it seems like there's more importance to that like sentence than we had previously thought. So comment down below if you have any theory at all what she's referring to at all, because I have no idea. But she goes on to say he is going to die, and he did technically die in this episode, but he was brought back to life again. And so did time change again? Like, because the seer says that Coulson has to die for the Earth to be saved or whatever. So he did technically die here. So is the Earth saved now? I don't think so, but it seems like it's a possibility that the Earth or the time loop is changing a bit. Like I said, and people that think they are safe aren't going to be safe by the end of the season. So yeah. But once Talbot and Coulson make their escape, they ended up popping up in like a mountainy forest, snowy area or whatever, which is going to be a big part of next episode. But Talbot actually says, why couldn't it be a white sandy beach with palm trees? And then Coulson says, not my thing anymore, which is referring to the Tahiti and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. And going to talk about a bit of Absorbman and all that stuff. I know a lot of people didn't like this adaptation of the Absorbman because apparently he's depowered from what he was in the comics. And it seems like once he absorbed the gravitonium in this episode, he had gained advancements in his powers because he could absorb electricity and he shocked Coulson back to life. But I don't think he's ever done that before in this show, so it's a possibility that it's coming closer to his comic book counterpart than previous before. But I don't know because I don't read the comics, so I don't know exactly if that's true or not. But yeah. And one last reference that ties into the predictions area. So here on out is most likely going to be predictions. When it was revealed that the theory in the test that Simmons had was actually faked, Fitz is freaking out, rightfully so, because he had no idea that this was a test all this time. But he actually names drops Judi Dench, who's a famous actress and all that kind of stuff, and he compared Judi Dench to Simmons because she's become a better actress now since season 1. She's come a long way since then, so she's grown a lot. I think she's the most evolved, I guess, of a character. So yeah, and what's my prediction is that now that Fitz is out of his cell, he is going to turn back to Framework Fitz at some point or another. I don't know exactly when, how, or why, but it's going to most likely deal with Simmons. Because he freaked out here. What's gonna happen out now that he's out and about, and not he's gonna be out and about in a stress-filled environment instead of a very nice cell that he could calm down and all that kind of stuff. So he's most likely gonna turn into Framework Fitz at some point. And going to the drawing that I hinted at, we see like this what's called a big giant guy. I don't know how to explain it. A giant like shape of a human or whatever. But then you had like 6 different tiny stick figured people inside of it, and it's a possibility that's a reference to the gravitonium and all that kind of stuff, which has been in the show since episode 1 of the season. It was on Enoch's wall, and must be a reason that they brought it back. So it's a possibility that it's the MC version of Graviton, because as of right now, we know Hall is in the Gravitonium, we know Quinn is in the Gravitonium, we know Krill is attached to the Gravitonium. He could be sucked into it at some point, but the next person that is going to most likely be sucked into the Gravitonium, if this theory of mine is true, is going to be Hall or Hale or whatever. Ruby is going to probably like push her into the Gravitonium. I don't know how that's going to happen, but she's going to turn on Hale at sooner or later. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be next episode, and it's going to be Strucker and Ruby going to be the next final villain or final villains or whatever up until Graviton comes up and reveals himself or whatever. But it's a possibility that's what they're dealing with right now, where every person on Hale's team is going to end up in the Gravitonium and become a version of Graviton from the comics. So yeah, I hope that makes sense to what I'm saying. So yeah, and Simmons in this episode actually has a funny line that's gonna be disastrous. Like, going back to the framework of Fitz, where she says that what's the worst thing that could happen? Like, yeah, two people that barely have any fight training, a woman with robotic arms that she cannot control, and so yeah, that what could possibly go wrong going on a mission to Hydra? So yeah, but comment down below if I missed any Easter eggs or references, or if you have any predictions for the upcoming episode. See ya.